Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far, and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be sharing and demonstrating all of my thoughts on this brand new, accidentally launched a little early, Natasha Denona Love Face palette for Valentine's Day. So if that sounds good to you, then let's get started. So this palette seemingly launched a little early accidentally at Look Fantastic. It has since been taken down. I do not believe it has sold out. I think it has been taken down because it was accidentally launched early. We haven't even heard from Natasha Denona about this release yet, and it just popped up on Look Fantastic. I grabbed one straight away. A few hours later it was removed from the website. Now I actually had some issues with my palette when it arrived. The highlighter was broken, and so I contacted Look Fantastic and they were fantastic, as you would expect, and instantly arranged a new one to be sent to me, which definitely confirms that they have them. They had another one to send to me as a replacement. I think they've just been asked to take it off of the website because that was an accidental launch, just a little too soon. So this cost me £54, which is the same as the previous palettes this format from Natasha Denona. Previously she released the Glam face palettes, which came in two shades, a light medium and a medium deep. Now I have only seen this one. If you know better, if there is a deep version of this palette, please let us know in the comment section. I will say this does not say light or light medium on it anywhere. It doesn't say anything to do with a variety or a shade option on here. So I think there is only going to be one because it doesn't say the variety shade name on the back, which is a little disappointing because this is quite light. You know, this is really only going to work for you if you have like a fair to light medium skin tone. There's a couple of really light shades in here that's only going to work on fairer skin tones. So that's a little disappointing that we've gone from two, you know, one for fair to medium and one for medium to deep skin tones, to just the one that it really is only going to work on the lighter skin tones. Another development here is that we have these pinholes on the back of this palette, so this can be depotted, which is great. However, as the previous palettes, the Glam palettes didn't have these pinholes, it's not going to be so easy to, you know, change shades between those palettes, but this hopefully is a move going forward so that all of these palettes will also be quite easy to depot and swap things about if that's what you wish to do. I will say I have been told that the US Look Fantastic website had this palette actually for something like $7 or even more dollars more than the previous Glam palettes. So I think we will see this launched at the same price point as the previous palettes. I think Look Fantastic, the US site, is just a bit more expensive, especially when it comes to Natasha Denona from what I've previously seen. So hopefully this will launch on Natasha's site and on Sephora at her usual price point. I don't see any reason why this would be more expensive than the previous versions or colour iterations of this type of palette. It was the same price here in the UK, so that was a little strange. So let's have a look at this Love Face palette. This is undoubtedly a pink lover's dream, a very kind of monochromatic pink palette for eye and cheek. It's made in Italy and it features a cream blush, a gel powder highlighter, and then we have 4 creamy matte eyeshadows and 1 sparkle shadow. So just the 1 shimmer in here versus the 2 that we got previously in both of the Glam palettes. There's only the 1 shimmer in here, and it is that very sparkly, glittery, chunkier formula that was in the Glam palettes. Lots of sparkle and shimmer, but a heavier and more prone to fall out shimmer than, say, Natasha's metallics. So I don't know when this will be back or when it will officially launch, but obviously it's a Valentine's launch, so I would expect this to pop back up across all retailers in the next week-ish. So I will be comparing this to the previous Love collections and products, items that we've seen from Natasha Denona at the end of this video, but now let's get on with the application and see how this palette performs on the eyes and cheeks. So I think what I want to try and do is like one eye that's going to be a little more neutral and less like pink Barbie pink, just for my own sanity, and one that is like just trying to get as on board with this colour story as possible. So I'm going to start off with this matte down here, Rephr 16 brush, and I'm just going to give this a wash of colour all through my crease. And you can see this is actually a bit more of a sort of peachy brown, a lot more of a neutral shadow than like what is typical in the rest of the palette. There's quite a bit of kick up from this palette, so you have been warned, but this is a beautiful, soft, very nice quality shadow, really giving me a nice blend without like much effort whatsoever, so that is great. And then I'm just going to use the highlighter shade on a flat brush as my lid shade. Just want to kind of see how versatile this palette can be, because it's obviously, you know, it is a very monochromatic pink palette, but I just want to see, you know, can you get like a couple of looks out of it, or is it just the one look? So now I'm using my Sonia G Worker and that same matte shade Giddy, just to kind of blend between matte and shimmer. And then my Sonia G Soft Definer with that same matte shade under the lower lash line. And that is all I'm going to do on this side. Very quick, very simple, kind of everyday, perfect look that, given we use this palette, really not that pink, nice and kind of neutral really, a bit of a peachy tone. And now we're going to go in with the Barbie look. So I'm going to start off with this shade here, Juliet, very like baby Barbie pink pastel matte, actually kind of lighter than my skin tone really. So I think if you have a fairer skin tone than mine, this may give you a bit more of a transition, but this could also be a nice lid shade. For me, it's just going to give me something to kind of blend into, a very soft like wash of pink. And then I'm going to go into Esme, which again is like also a slight nightmarish shade for me, really building on that Barbie pink vibe, but again a really beautiful soft blendable matte. I'm finding these shadows really easy to work with so far. But yes, this is giving Barbie is what it's giving. So now using my Rephr 33, I'm going to go into this dark purple sort of plummy shade, and I'm hoping this is going to sort of save me a little from the pink. This is going to smoke everything up and give me a bit more of a purple to the eye. Oh, okay. This shadow is causing me some slight blending issues there. These sort of deep purple mattes, always a bit problematic, I find. Up until now, everything has been so easy to work with and, you know, just blended itself. But this shade is going to take a bit more work, I think, which is very typical of these types of shades. I always find like deep purple mattes to be a bit problematic. You can see that is looking quite patchy. See if I can fix this a little bit, but yeah, definitely kind of run into my first little challenge with this palette. You guys know I'm not a makeup artist. I'm not talented especially good at eyeshadow, but this is not typically how my eyeshadow looks, so I do feel like this shadow is a bit challenging. Okay, so we're going to move on, and I'm going to use this shimmer, the one shimmer in the palette, Affinity, which definitely is quite loose and sort of glittery, and it's got quite a lot of kick up there, so I would expect when using this dry, you are going to get a fair amount of fallout. Already seeing, you know, a few specks there. Definitely going to see some fallout with this shadow because it's a sort of chunkier, you know, almost glittery shade. Obviously you could use it wet, you could use an adhesive, but for me, I just don't really worry about fallout. I will just usually do my eyes first and then I can wipe all of this away and no harm done. And that has definitely covered up quite a bit of the mess I made with that matte purple, so that's good. That's definitely cleaned that up nicely for me. Just going back into Esme and kind of using this as a middle shade between the outer V and that shimmer, just to bring everything together. You've definitely got sort of a daytime and an evening option with this palette. I'm going to then just literally take a dab of Esme and one of Ico and go under the lash line. Actually going to go back and then I'm going to go back in with that purple and deepen up this outer V a little. That pink didn't really work there. That's better. Okay, I'm just going to do a coat of mascara with my MAC Stack. Okay, and here are the finished eye looks. So you can see you can definitely do like a daytime or an evening. You kind of have options in there, you know, to do as much or as little as you'd like. And you can definitely do a kind of not so garishly pink look with this palette, but I ultimately feel like if you don't love pink, then this palette is probably not going to be for you. I don't think you should buy this palette if you don't want to embrace the pink and the Barbie. So yeah, I mean, I am pretty happy with both of these looks and even how this one turned out, but it's because the shimmer is kind of hiding like the worst of what happened over here with that deep purple. I definitely had some issues with that shade. Okay, so now for the bit that I've probably been dreading the most, because this blush is literally my nightmare. This is just like, I don't wear pink blush and this is, you know, like a Barbie pink blush. So it's not typically what I would go for when it comes to a blush, but I'm using my BK Beauty 107 and I'm just going to try tapping this onto the skin. This is a really good cream blush brush, so I'm hoping this hair would get out of the way. I'm hoping this is going to keep me safe when dealing with this cream blush. Okay. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see on camera, but this is definitely disturbing my base. It's definitely kind of moving the foundation. It's kind of caking up a little and it's picking it up, even though I'm kind of being as gentle as I can with a really soft, gentle brush. It's still kind of picking up my foundation. I will say when I swatched this blush, it felt much stickier. You know, I'm not a huge cream blush girl, but I will say Natasha Denona's blushes in these palettes I've always got on pretty well with because they actually just feel so silky. Like they don't feel wet or sticky or creamy. They just feel like a very silky, smooth, gliding powder, like gel kind of formula. This feels different to me. It feels sticky. Like you can even see when I sort of put my finger or swatch it, it's sticking up. It looks and feels much stickier than I have found her cream blushes to be in the past, and it's not performing as well for me. It's definitely like, can you see here where it's picked up and it's kind of made my foundation cake up? Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that blush. I mean, the colour again is very light for my skin tone. It's almost lighter than my skin tone and it's just not my colour. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the highlighter now, which, you know, when this first arrived and it was all smashed, I got when I was trying to repress it. I got some on my finger and swatched it. And it really looked super pretty, right up my street. Very smooth, very understated, melting into the skin. I think this is very pretty. It's kind of throwing me off because it's going on top of that highlighter, and that highlighter has really made quite the mess of like my base and my foundation. So it's, everything is not looking great, but the highlighter is still looking really pretty if you can kind of look through the mess that's going on where my foundation has been kind of picked up and moved around by that cream blush. The highlighter I think is really pretty, but it is having a bit of a tricky job going on top of that blush. Okay, let's have a close-up of everything. What do you guys think? I wonder if you can really see what's going on here with this blush. It's definitely pretty much destroyed my foundation. It's moved it, it has picked it up, and it's kind of turned a bit cakey. I did not set my foundation with powder. There's no powder. I didn't put bronzer on. Literally the cream blush was going on top of my foundation, so it really shouldn't have been that tricky, but I did not like the feel of that blush. It felt sticky, it felt heavy, it felt like this was going to happen, to be honest. I was expecting this to happen. It was probably worse than I expected. The shadows I think are very pretty, other than that matte purple, which I did struggle with. Everything was very nice, very easy to work with. Definitely a fair bit of fallout from that shimmer shadow, which will either bother you or it won't. But a bit of a mixed bag as far as experience today. So what I thought would be helpful now is to have a look at the previous Love palettes and the Mini Love eyeshadow palette, and have a look and see how similar this new Love Face palette is in comparison. Let's do some comparison swatches and see if you already own these and this. Have you already got what is in this palette? Let's find out. So starting off with the cream blush out of the new Love Face palette. There she is. Then the cream blush out of the Love Duo. That's actually much more like coral, whereas the Love Face palette is just straight up Barbie pink. And then the Glow cream base from the Love Glow palette. That's lighter, and again, more coral versus this pink. So not really similar to those previous cheek palettes, but let's have a look at the eyeshadows in here against the Mini Love. And now let's swatch the Mini Love eyeshadow quint. So we have the Love Face palette, and then this is the Mini Love. I think these are actually a bit more different than I expected. These matte purples are, you know, vaguely in the same ballpark, but other than that, I think the Mini Love is a bit more sort of purple rose, and the shadows in the Love Face palette are just straight up pinks mostly. Okay, so this Love Face palette from Natasha Denona. I didn't have my easiest or best makeup day today, I will say that the colours in here are definitely not like my colours, for sure. I love pink on clothes and on my nails, but not so much on my eyes or cheeks. Really, these sort of baby Barbie pastely pinks are really just not my vibe when it comes to makeup. So that is, you know, my personal preference aside. The formulas in here are tricky. You know, I really like the highlighter, and the majority of the eyeshadows really perform very nicely, but this purple and the blush are really letting it down. I think you really need to love pink and pink eyeshadow and pink cheeks to even be interested in this palette in the first place, because it is just so pink heavy. You're really not going to be interested in this unless you love pink eyeshadow and cheeks. Otherwise, I think you'd be better off with something else like the Glam palette from Natasha Denona, or you know, maybe one of the Hourglass palettes that you can use on cheeks and eyes as well. I think you need to be a real pink lover, and even then I think the blush, I'm really disappointed in that formula. I've previously enjoyed Natasha's cream blush formula. It's been one of the ones that I find easier to work with, and the cream blush like in her My Dream Trio, this just doesn't, I mean, you can probably even see when you swatch this, it just doesn't feel sticky, creamy, heavy. It's not like picking up and leaving like a cream imprint. It feels like a silky powder, like a mousse. You know, the cream blush in here is really quite heavy and sticky, and you really can see that when you touch it. It seems like a new formula to me in here, and like not in a good way. So that was really quite problematic. You know, it ruined my foundation underneath, which now looks like a patchy, clingy, balled up mess with, you know, just a nightmare, to be honest. And I did try my best to work with it, and you know, used a light hand, was gentle, used a great cream blush brush from BK Beauty, and yeah, I think it just didn't work for me. I think also this, you know, when you've got 5 eyeshadows, and this really is the kind of game changer. This is the one that's going to give you a more purple look, a smokier look. I really had some problems with this eyeshadow. It was, you know, patchy. It took a lot of work to blend out, and really I had to just kind of hide what it had done rather than being able to just blend it with some effort and time. And yeah, so that kind of, again, was a more problematic shade. So overall, I think, you know, if you absolutely love pink and you don't really mind there being some problematic formulas in here, then maybe that's the person who this is going to be for. I think you'd need like a fair to light medium skin tone in order to get the most use out of this, with the highlighter and the blush being quite light, and also some of these shadows being quite light as well. Really, if you have a fair to light medium skin tone and you just love and adore pink, then that's who this is for. I think anyone else is probably going to be disappointed. And if you're on the fence because you're not such a pink person like me, I think this isn't going to wow you enough to push you over the fence into purchase town, is what I'm saying. So please let me know if you managed to get your hands on this palette before it was quickly snatched back off of the Look Fantastic website. Let me know, have you used this? Have you tried this? Did you have a different experience to me? Did you like this more than I did? Did you get on better with the formulas than I did? Please let us know in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I would love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.